been covering. So just an introduction, my name is Catherine Jeffries. I am one of the transformation managers at the Integrated Care Board. For those of you who haven't met me, we have a number of other people on the call. Hannah Roden, who's been supporting with this from the start. Hannah, if you'd like to give everybody a wave. And our colleagues from MiiCare are also joining us and will introduce themselves when they get to their parts of the presentation. So I'm just going to start the presentation now. Just give it a minute to load because my computer has decided today should be Friday for some reason. And here's Dexter. Hannah, could you take over letting people in as I start to do the presentation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay? Thank you. And if you could keep an eye out for hands up in case I missed those as well, that'd be really helpful.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. So first things first, before I dive in, I am getting lots of people forwarding this invitation to many people in the PCNs for the training, which is not a problem. You are more than welcome. However, what I'm not getting from all of you is a feel for who needs access to the team site and who needs access to the MiiCare dashboard. So I'm just going to send an email out to the PCN leads tomorrow. If I could ask you as a priority to just verify the information we've got so that when we go live next week, everybody does have the right access to their systems. That would be really, really helpful. So today we're going to spend about an hour and a half working through the following areas that you can see on screen, which should give you an overview of the technology and how you'll be accessing and receiving information on service users involved. I'm just going to run through a bit of background, and apologies to those of you who have been to the workshops before, but as I said, we've got a number of people that have been forwarded this invite who I'm aware haven't necessarily been front and centre of this project. So just want to give a bit of context to that, and I'll do it as fast as I can. But the main reason I'm doing this is the slides are then A, in the presentation, which will get loaded up to the team site, and B, also on the recording, so people who are watching it back can get some of that context. So the project forms part of the Home First 2 programme and came out of the knowledge we built around frailties, injuries, fractures and falls, which is a project that sits within Home First 2. Home First 2 is one of our city priorities and is closely aligned with the National Neighbourhood Implementation Programme. And our vision really is to work in partnership to proactively prevent ill health and wellbeing deterioration, ensuring that people live independently and are supported in their own homes. One of the 3 objectives within Home First 2 is to implement neighbourhood proactive care, of which MiiCare forms part of it. And that's working with people, their families and carers to improve their health outcomes for those most at risk of hospital admission. This slide is slightly out of date now, but as each PCN is proactively managing a population of people at risk of admission alongside their partners. However, it does illustrate where MiiCare fits in. And that technology is a tool which should really support them in doing both in terms of prevention of falls and proactively managing people in terms of information that comes through. And we developed a problem statement out the back of the Frailty, Injuries, Fractures and Falls project, which really lays out why this particular cohort of people are our focus. And I'm not going to read it out to you. I'm not going to go through it in any detail because you can look back at this, but it does give you that background as to why this set of people are focus for us. And so we really honed in using that problem statement on people who are 60 plus living with moderate to severe frailty. And we've got 10 PCNs who've signed up to the pilot, which is fantastic. We've got people who have been identified at risk of a fall or who have fallen in the last 12 months. Just a reminder, people need to be living on their own, although pets and carers visiting regularly are fine. Those people need to remain independent as long as possible. We have set the cutoff at 65, even though we've got frailty, injuries and falls at 60, we've set it at 65 just because the sheer volume of people we think might be interested. Although we can review that as we go through if we don't get enough sign up. We have encouraged people living with dementia and severe mental illness to join the pilot, but what we've got as a backup to that is the dementia mental health liaison practitioners and LYPFT have offered to review anybody you want to refer who falls into this category to check that this technology will be suitable for them and won't cause additional distress. The patient needs to be able to consent or have an existing lasting power of attorney. And importantly, they need to be not called Monica, because unfortunately Monica at the moment, who's the artificial intelligence, doesn't have a pseudonym yet, although it is en route in due course. Just a quick overview of the process then. The high level process is that PCNs and partners identify people suitable for the pilot. Care coordinators will onboard the person. Oh, someone's just taken control of my presentation. I'm just going to nick it back off you, sorry. Care coordinators will onboard the person completing the care plan, their referral forms, their consent, send those to telecare, who will review and install the kit in people's homes, and then they pick up that monitoring of the alerts that come through from the system. If an alert is raised, they will notify the PCNs, who can then take follow-up action if required, and we're going to take a continuous learning approach with this. Just a reminder for everybody what the kit looks like. So you've got the MiiCube in the middle, a number of room and door sensors, an optional smart watch to wear, and we've got a smart plug as well that can monitor things like kettle usage. Oh, we've gone the wrong way, sorry. And just in relation to what does the kit do, so we're looking at measurement of gait, so footsteps, transition time, steps taken through the house, room usage, sleep time and quality if someone wears the optional wristwatch, indication of hydration levels via the smart plug and fridge door sensors. And then we've got Monica, the conversational AI assistant, who can also give prompts around appointments, medication and motivational prompts. We did also, within the bid for this, put in an amount of money for those patients who are living in IMD1 at our most deprived areas to be eligible to apply for a falls alarm, telecare falls alarm as well. So it's about 15% of the participants. We have allocated kits to each of the PCNs, so you know how many you have to hand out. And that is on this slide for you to refer back to, really, in terms of the number of telecare kits you have to hand out for your participants and the number of MiiCare kits that you've got as well. Now I'm going to hand over to Ophir, who's going to introduce himself and his team and cover the accessing the system and the dashboard. Ophir?
Yes, thank you, Catherine. Nice meeting you all. I'm Ophir from MiiCare. I'll walk you through the solution very high level to allow you to understand how it works. And then, yeah, we'll go through some of the reports that are being generated by the system, which is information you will probably have to review on a regular basis while any of the patients are being referred throughout the process. So
I'll stop sharing so that you can share yours.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Actually, I just have Monica here, switching one. So you can
Monica, your personal wellness companion from MiiCare.
Just have an opportunity to see her in action. So that's Monica, and she'll be there with the individuals at home, and she'll be reviewing their data, have access to different information coming from multiple sensors that are deployed at home. And by having that data, she will be able to analyze movement, behavior, sleep, and activities of daily living. I think, yeah. All right, so let me share the screen. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to present to you the dashboard that's going to be used by some of you while you're accessing the information of the individuals. So we'll start with an individual's dashboard. You can see here on the screen Jane's dashboard in this example, where all the information is presented here in front of you. This will be accessible to the telecare team. That'll be accessible also to family members should they have access to the system. And it's a kind of collaboration between the different parties to look after the patient and make sure they are safe and they're okay at home. It's a preventative solution. So it's all about identifying risks before it escalates and becomes a fall, perhaps any kind of information that generates data that might lead into an escalated situation that eventually might lead to a hospital admission or a fall. We want to prevent that as early as possible within that process. So what I'm going to do is share with you how that's going to look like for you. So you can see here on the screen, that's the dashboard of Jane. It's a demo account, obviously, just for the purpose of showing you how that looks like. You have everything you need in one view. Once you log into Jane's dashboard, and later we'll zoom out and show you how you can find Jane within the account. Once you log into our platform, you'll be able to see movement around the house. So the whereabouts here explains to you how within that day, across 24 hours, Jane's been moving in the house. So she's been in the bedroom from midnight. She woke a couple of times and went into the bathroom, woke up in the morning at 7:02, as you can see here, moved into the bathroom, into the living room, opened the door once, etc. So the information is there. In case you need to drill down and look a bit into what was happening, you can always zoom in and look at specific events if they happened, or just, open a list here and see how these indications, these events took place within the house. Now, that's not useful if you just, want to understand what's happening, unless there's a specific event that has happened and you want to drill down to it. The more important and useful information for you guys would be what we see here on the right-hand side of the dashboard, where the system provides scoring of different parameters. For example, the wellness score is an aggregated calculated score that looks at the baseline of the person and scores vital signs, sleep quality, physical activity, and activity of daily living. Each one that you hover will give you a description of what that means, so you can understand how the system is actually, or what kind of information the system has been using in order to score the person's behavior. And as I mentioned before, this is individually calculated, so it's based on the person's baseline. If someone's not moving a lot, or their sleep is at specific aspect, then if something has changed from their baseline, that's what the system scores their behavior against. You can see a breakdown of sleep quality with regards to restfulness, total sleep timing, and sleep efficiency. All of these as well are explained here in more details, what that means and how the system calculates that. On the right-hand side, there are AI related insights that the system generates to highlight any kind of anomaly that's been identified for that person. It can be things related to something that happened over the past couple of days, but it can also be something that looks at a longer kind of change with regards to a trend that is developed and needs to be looked at. So for example, here you can see that the system picked up that Jane's been using the bathroom more than expected these past few days. Please keep an eye on the situation if possible. So it's not a red alert, but it is something indicating there's a change in behavior, something that wasn't normal for Jane in the past few months. The baseline is a specific one, but suddenly the system picked up over a period of few days, there's an increased visit to the bathroom that might indicate of an UTI being developed. We want to prevent that from becoming an upper UTI, maybe even a fall or an admission to hospital. So the system picks that up and allows you to address that and prevent that from deteriorating. Another example is the system observed that Jane is going to bed earlier than usual and is waking up several times during the night this past week. I would recommend having a chat with him or her on this in this case. So the system is actually mentioning to us that something with sleep quality has changed, something which is not normal for Jane, because the system knows how Jane sleeps regularly and consistently, and suddenly there's a change in behavior in the past few days. We want to address that before it's too late. So these are the kind of examples that the system would pick up and share with you in terms of insight. So this portal here is this widget here is quite important in the system. On top of that, there's some additional information that's presented here, more for the carers, more for family members. You can set up reminders. You can look at how many steps they've done versus the goal that's been set for them. And if you actually click it, you'll be able to see how steps have been, growing over that specific individual day. You can select the day that you want to look at in the left bottom side here in the calendar. Nevertheless, the vitals here on the top would be picked up and taken from the wearable that they're using. So for example, heart rate and how that looked like over the day, or oxygen saturation level. They don't have medical devices at the moment, so it's not going to be used, but those that have a wearable, some of the vitals would be collected from the wearable. It's all test data here. Therefore, what you see on the screen is just dummy data we're using for testing and demonstration. We are going to launch a new version of the graphs, which is coming up in a few weeks. So we'll share an update, maybe a short recording just to reflect that to you. I'll just give you a snapshot of how that's going to look like. This is how it's going to look like. We'll provide that, access to that data at a later stage. You can always look at that, click, and you can look at the steps, how they've been over a period of a single day, or you can look weekly, how that has changed day over day over the past week or months. So just to reflect to you that this will be available for you as well, but we'll have a separate kind of a short intro recording. We can distribute that with you as part of our release of a new version, but that'll allow you to have access as well. As mentioned, medical devices are not being used as part of this project. Therefore, blood pressure monitoring or weight using automatic scales or heart rate monitoring will not be used by information collected from medical devices. This will only be used through what the wearable is picking up. Okay, so that's a highlight of the individual's dashboard as presented here. When you log into the system, what you're going to be able to see is a cohort view, a group view of all the residents that are part of your PCN. Once you log in, and you'll receive, if you've been added to the system, and we got a list of users that should have access to the system, each one of you, once they log in, will be able to have a view where you'll see the list of all residents here, and you can just click that specific resident and or patient and access their data. So for example, Jane that I just showed you is listed here, Jane Jones. I just clicked her name and I got into that dashboard that I just showed you before. Fairly easy. You go into the dashboard and you're able to see the list of people. You click the relevant patient and you get access to their data. Some of you are set to be administrators, so they'll have this administrate button where you can add users, you can configure devices, etc., which is not something we'll cover within the scope of this meeting. Is just for you to be aware. You won't have access to it, so you don't really need to be worried about that. Last thing I wanted to present to you, and maybe I'll allow my colleague Dexter to present, is the periodic report. So these are reports that the system will be generating over a period of every month. Basically, there will be a report generated. It looks at data and trends and changes in behavior over a period of few weeks. So Dexter, do you want to quickly cover that part? Give a few words about it.
Sure. Thank you, Fred. Hi, everyone. In case I haven't introduced, I'm responsible for the data and AI here at MiiCare. And one of the main purposes of what you see on the screen, what we call the periodic highlight report, is it gives you in one page a snapshot of everything that has happened in terms of trends and observations that the system has collected over a period of time. In this case, this will be given to you on a monthly basis. So you're going to see what has happened in the past month for a specific resident, and what are the trends, observations, and highlights that we think that you should be knowing all in one page. And you're going to get this for every specific resident on every month. So this highlight report has three components. You have the sleep specific insights and observations, column 1. Column 2 is mobility specific things, and then you have activities of daily living, or ADL specific observations, on the third column. Specific to sleep health, you get the total sleep, light sleep, deep sleep kind of aggregate scores on a week-on-week basis. So this is showing you approximately 5 weeks. You're gonna show, you're gonna get it for 4 weeks, for the past 4 weeks, and you're gonna see for those 4 weeks, on average, how the person's sleep behavior has been. Now, please note that this is specific for the data that we're getting from the wearable. If they're wearing it consistently and the data is usable, then you get the total sleep and the light sleep and the deep sleep. If they're not wearing the watch, or the watch data is not really trustworthy because they are either not charging it or they're not using it properly, and what we can do is, using the PIR sensors, we can approximate how they're sleeping or how much they're sleeping in terms of bar graphs. Ophir, you can show the second version in the second slide. I think, yeah, something like this. So it tells you, and this is approximately using the PIR sensors, which Ophir showed you earlier, how many hours they're sleeping, and that's it. So, and if both of them are present, you're going to get the first version that you see. The second component in the sleep, it shows you when they're sleeping, like what's their average sleep timing. So in this case, this specific resident was sleeping between 10 and 7:30. That's their sleeping hours. If anything changes, we'll let you know, right? So if there's any changing in whether they're going before or earlier than expected, or waking up later than expected, which is something that we have seen does sometimes lead to decompensation scenarios where the person is waking up later and later in the day. We will mention that in here. Wake ups per night, as you know, literally what it means is like how many times the person is waking up in the middle of the night and going to somewhere else in the house. So they may be using the bathroom, they might be using the kitchen or any other purpose. We'll let you know how many times they're waking up in the middle of the night on average for the past few days. And if there is something that we have seen which is very unusual. The sleep efficiency tells you, okay, in terms when they're going to the bed, are they properly sleeping, or are they actually spending most of their time um, awake in the bed, or are they actually sleeping? The way we can differentiate between these two is basically movement. If you're not sleeping, if you're just sleeping lying on your bed and reading a book, you're gonna have movement, and the senses are gonna pick that up. If you are in light sleep phase, you're gonna still have a little bit of movement, but if you're in deep sleep phase, you're gonna have no movement at all. So we're gonna figure it. We're gonna take that information and tell you on as an efficiency measure what's the sleep efficiency over here, and then the total hours of sleep will tell you in total, like this is the amount of hours of sleep they're spending in the bedroom overall. Any specific observations, like I mentioned, any nuances that we are seeing in the observations, we're gonna tell you in those bullet points over there. It doesn't have to be 3 bullet points. We'll tell you as much as possible within 3 to 4 bullet points that the system thinks is necessary for you to know in terms of changes or delta from their baseline primarily in their sleep. For mobility, we are looking at 3 main things, which is activity level indoors, their transit time, and step count. Now, activity level is a very overall measure looking at all the data that we're collecting from all the senses, the PIR motion sensors in the household. So you have the kitchen sensor, the bedroom sensor, the living room sensor, the bedroom sensor, any other sensors additional to the 4 base sensors they have. We're looking at, okay, if they're indoors, how much they are active within each room, and overall, is there any change in their baseline? So this tells you a very good proxy of how much movement they're happening in the household, and if they are trying to, if they have any tendencies of macro living to micro living patterns. For example, are they sticking to the bedroom and the bathroom always, or are they using all the rooms equally? We're gonna let you know from this information. The transit time, it tells you. We call it transit time because it tells you the amount of time it takes for them to transit or move between one room to another on average. This is a very good proxy for gate speed if you assume the distances between rooms stays the same. So it tells you that if they're taking more time to move between the living room and the bedroom, when it used to take less time before, that's a sign that it's their gate speed is reducing. So it's taking more time. So that means usually that means that they have either low confidence in moving about, or they have some kind of pain or issue, or they have some issue with their mobility that needs to be looked in. So we will tell you about that trend over here and what's its on average, and if there is any delta from their baseline. The step count, pretty obvious, it's from the watch. If the watch is not being worn properly, we cannot give you the step count, but if they are doing that, we can tell you the baseline and how much they have deviated from their normal baseline. As per the NICE UK guidelines, the expected step count for the cohort that we have right now, it's between 1,000 to 2,000 steps on average. That's the normal baseline expected. Obviously, every person will have their own baselines. We're going to tell you based on their specific baseline and not the NICE baseline. The graphs below basically tell you the delta changes in a graphical manner. So you have your daily step count. If you have the step count values, we will tell you the graphs and what has changed over the 4 weeks. Same with indoor mobility in terms of what's their usual number of times they're moving between rooms on average, and how does it change over the weeks as well. If you have the transit time data really well monitored, you will also see a variation in that graph of it. If you go to the second version, I think will see a line graph. There you go. So the line graph tells you more or less, okay, if the transit time is going up or down. Going down is good for transit time because that means you're showing more confidence. You're showing, you're increasing your gate speed, which usually means they're going back to their normal baselines if they have been recuperating or decompensating from before. So down is good for transit time. We'll mark it in green just to show you that this is a good signal. But again, this is not diagnostic. We're not doing any diagnostics over this side. We'll tell you what is usually good or bad, but we do not make that decision. as a diagnostic partner here. The third and the last one is ADL. Specific to ADL, we're looking at the specific purposes of each of the rooms that we have. So you have the bathroom, you have the kitchen, outdoor activities, basically going outside of the house, and appliances. I don't think we have appliances sensors, do we, in the setup? But if we, for the bathroom,
there are some smart plugs if needed. So those that will be using it will be able to provide insights about usage of appliance. For example, if someone stopped using their kettle or any other appliance they're using that we're monitoring, that will be highlighted as a change in behavior. Yeah.
So the system automatically looks out, okay, if you're using the kettle every day to get your cup of tea at 8, 9 in the morning, and then again at lunch or at afternoon, that will be picked up as a pattern. The uses of the appliance itself, be it in this case kettle or maybe the microwave, based on what we choose to use as an appliance sensor. If anything changes in that behavior, we'll let you know in this section. And we'll tell you exactly what was the expected behavior and what did we see in the last few weeks as changing delta in the behavior. Same thing with kitchen. We are telling you, okay, when did they usually use the kitchen? Are they skipping the kitchen uses? Is there any delta, again, deviation from their expected kitchen users behavior? Usually what we would expect is kitchen users corresponds or correlates with the appliance users most of the time. So if there's any change or any addition or something else happens, we'll let you know in this section. Regarding the bathroom, so this is, again, we'll tell you, okay, how many times per day on average they're using the toilet. And what we have seen is in cases of dysuria or nocturia or any other kind of UTI kind of pre-occurrence kind of issue, what we have seen is the bathroom visit changes. They start using the bathroom a lot. And it could be very specific throughout the day, or it could be specifically at night, and they're not using it at all during the day. So any kind of these change of behaviors or unusual observation that we have seen from prior studies, we can let you know over here, saying that this is the expected behavior, this is the baseline behavior, and this is what have changed. And we'll let you know exactly how long they're taking each bathroom visit on average here. And outdoor activity is based on looking at, okay, have they gone outside of the premises of the household? The way that we know this is by simply looking at absence of data from the PIS census from some amount of time, maybe like 30 minutes or 1 hour. And we usually correlate that with saying, okay, if the door sensors have open and shut and there's nothing happening, we'll know that, okay, this person has been going out as well. The smart insights over there is basically a summary of all the smart insights that you will see on the dashboard on a day-to-day basis. It kind of summarizes the key things that you need to know, which it may not be fitting into the 4 sensor kind of category on top. And that's all. That's everything that you need to know in one page from this report.
Thank you, Dexter. So just answering one question that I think Grace here put on the chat. Each of the sensor is configured and it knows what it's connected to. So if they have a smart plug for a kettle and it's connected to the kettle, the system's configured and knows that it's attached to a kettle. If they have a microwave, connected with a sensor, that will be picked up as well by the system, or a TV or whatever it's decided throughout the install to set it up for. There are different types of devices we usually support, but that's all done and decided by the installers at that point in time. I think that's it from our end. Catherine?
We've just got a question from Grace coming in. Grace?
Yeah, sorry, it was just a follow-up to that. So who makes the decisions, for example, then if they did need the additional sensors? So as you quite rightly said, if you can use the appliance sensor for the TV or for things like the microwave, I think that would be really useful, but I don't know if it's not part of the package. Is that part of the care coordinator or whoever it is who is discussing this with the patient to see if that's the need and then go from there?
So you get one smart plug as part of your kit.
One,
Grace.
okay.
Yep, so you've got one. So yes, it'll be a part of that kind of care planning discussion around actually what is most useful for you to know about. Is hydration a particular problem for this patient, or are you more interested in knowing that, if their daily routine is they up and they turn the telly on the first thing, is that something you're more interested in? So yeah, it'd be a judgment call really on what is going to give you the best data.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenna?
Hi, I've got a couple of questions. I just wanted to check, are we monitoring vital signs and heart rate then? Is that something that's going to be monitored?
A really good question. Ophira, I believe we are not monitoring vital signs. We don't have the health package, but can you just bring the dashboard back up and show which of those signs would get picked up by the smartwatch, because we do have that, please?
Sure. Let me share the screen again. Yeah, I hope it came through. Yeah, you can see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so basically I'll just go back to where we had some data here on the system. That's the data I showed you earlier. And any devices that are not being used, you won't have any data presented here. So, you know, blood pressure will not be presented because there's no blood pressure monitor as part of the kit. The wearables do provide indications about the data. So, for example, if we look at the graphs here, steps will obviously be presented. Body temperature will only be presented from a wearable, right? So the wearable has the option. We just remove the medical device and you won't be able to see any of the medical device data that's coming through. The wearable is there and providing indicative information about body temperature and oxygen saturation levels and heart rate. But again, it's a wearable based, not used by any of the medical devices.
Yeah, so that's on the watch, is it, that they wear?
Correct.
Yeah, so if they do wear that, we will get that, and then we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to check, will it pick up if people sleep during the day?
So sleep is basically analyzed during the night. If there's any indication that the system will pick up, it will come up through the smart insights, indicating of changes in behavior, etc. That'll be part of the routine when the system analyzes their behavior at home, right? So if it picks up that they regularly sleep during the day, that'll be part of their activities of daily living, which is fine. Nevertheless, sleep quality is something that will be analyzed during nighttime.
I'm just thinking for somebody who's unwell and sleeping a bit more, maybe sleeping in the chair, is that liable to get caught, do you think?
That's maybe, yeah. Dexter, do you want to relate to that?
So if someone is, let's say, like after their evening, or sorry, after their lunch or after their snack, they are napping, between, let's say, 2 or 4 in the afternoon, it will come up as absence of movement data in the household. So you will see someone being in the living room where, let's say, the sofa is, and they are watching the TV or doing something, and you see no movement for a specific amount of time, let's say 2 hours, 1 hour, and then suddenly you see movement after 4, right? That's how it will manifest in the graph that you see in the center. On the smart insight side of things, we'll tell you that this is the observation that we're happening. We cannot tell you because we're not actually seeing the person sleeping. From the sensors, we'll tell you that we are seeing this gap or absence in behavior, and the person is not going outside. So very likely they're taking a nap or they're doing something that we do not know. So we'll tell you that if that's a new behavior, if that's an existing behavior, then it's not exactly a smart insight per se, but that's something that will raise it up in the highlight report and say that this is something that's happening every day or every other day. Very likely it's going to be a nap because that's what we have seen before. So it's not sleep per se, but it's a ADL activity in this case.
Okay, thank you.
I am not seeing any new questions for now. Thank you, guys. So I'll just put my presentation back up and go back onto the next bit we had. Bear with me. It's just not letting me skip forward, just bear with. Okay, so Ophira and Dexter have really shown you how the system works. You will get the dashboard with notifications turned off. This means you will not get the live alerts. So you do have access to the live data on the dashboard. You don't get the alerts. The alerts go to Telecare. So we were just going to give you a bit of a feel for what Telecare are going to be doing, just so that you get that full picture. So the system's monitoring, it's picking up changes in behaviour, They'll be visible on the dashboard, but the alert raised will come through to telecare. And really what they're doing is they're taking the referral that you send through to them. Their managers will review it. The technician will contact the patient, family or carer to arrange installation. They'll create an account for the patient on both their systems. So that's UMO and their equipment system, ELMS. And they will check that once they've set everything up, the MiiCare dashboard is live. They've obviously installed the kit, and then they will contact you to confirm that the kit has been installed. Referral forms will go through to a central address, which is miicare.pilot@leeds.gov.uk. This is all in the step-by-step SOP that is on the Teams site that we'll talk to you about a bit later. And they will always email you back on your centralized email accounts that you've had set up as well, so that that's a secure end-to-end process with encryption between the two systems. It's a screenshot, really. It's not that clear. I apologise. I had to take it during last week's training with telecare. But essentially, this is what their UMO system looks like, and they get a notification come through onto their system, which really tells them what's happened. They then have a tab that they can click on to go and see exactly the same dashboard that you can look at, which is the first one that Ophir was showing you. This one. So this is the same dashboard you and telecare are looking at. So if they need further information about what that alert's about, they will go and look at the dashboard. And then they follow this decision tree. So they will look at the information that they're looking at, go, right, are we looking at no movement detected for a specified amount of time? No response to calls. They'll try and call the patient to see what's going on. Or if the patient advised that they've got unrelieved severe breathlessness, they have unrelieved chest pain or discomfort, they feel drowsy, confused or agitated, or if they are in any doubt, they will call an ambulance. Where the changes are the more standard ones that we're expecting to see more of, so changes are gradual, we see an increased use in bathroom usage, changing gait, all the things that Ophir's just gone through with you, and they state they're feeling generally unwell. The patient will be advised to phone either their GP practice during working hours, or if outside working hours, telephone 111. So we're always signposting the patient back to a clinician. If they don't feel they need medical attention, they say they feel perfectly fine. And in any case where we've referred them to any of the others, you will get an email from telecare stating alert has been raised and what action has been taken. So you will be notified of that alert, and you've then got the opportunity to go and look at that dashboard and see the same information that telecare have been looking at. So for all alerts that raised, you will be notified about them. We will also, if the patient has indicated that they want a carer involved or a family member, notify the carer or family member. And that will all be done by telecare. How do we know those alerts have been acted on? So we are asking you guys at PCN to confirm that you've received the alert and what action you have taken, including any details of any action taken by 999 that comes through the BAU route back to telecare. And when we discussed this on the 19th of November at the last workshop, we felt that we needed a closed loop of telecare acknowledging they'd got that information and they'd uploaded it to UMO. So we've got a full audit trail of what's happened to that patient, and we can carry out effective evaluation. Just a reminder that the clinical decision making lies with the GP practices and the PCNs. So telecare are only recording the information and not making any clinical judgments at any point. If you pick up at any point that this process shouldn't have worked, hasn't worked how you expected it to, or a different action should have been taken, then we would ask you to contact telecare as soon as possible, and also notify. We've nominated Hannah, because of all the reorganisation that's going on, as our kind of like point of escalation contact, if you don't mind, and then Hannah will make sure the right people are pulled together to have a kind of learning discussion around what we could do differently. And just really for information, every type of alert that can be raised has been mapped within UMO. So if there are major wake-ups, it's mapped back to a bed alarm within the UMO system, so that telecare really have a list of anything that could happen and exactly what they're supposed to do about it. I'm just going to check, is Abs on the call?
Hi, Catherine, I'm here.
Hi, fabulous. I'm going to hand over to you, Abs. I'm just going to let you talk through the receiving a notification of an alert within the PCN process.
All right, great. Thank you. Yes, so just going to talk through this mapping that was shared in the workshop last year. So Telecare receives the alert from MiiCare from the kits, and if it's non-urgent, then they kind of like advise the patient to contact their GP or 111, as mentioned by Catherine earlier. Referral to PCN, once the information comes through to the PCN, it's going to come through the email, the team's email address that has been provided for each PCN, so as not to miss out if we send it to someone directly and the person is off on annual leave or something else. So the PCN checks if there's any missing information. They go back to Telecare to request for the missing information. Then they start looking into the patient inquest to see what they can do to support the patient after confirming all the necessary information. If they need to contact the patient or the carer to arrange a visit, they would do that. If not, they can review without contacting the patient if they think the patient has been in touch already and they know the reason why there's been a change in the pattern of the patient's gateway or anything like that. Then they don't have to contact. They can close that without reaching out to the patient. If they need to escalate by looking at the multifactorial false assessments, I think Joe Brascio provided that, and we shared the link as well after the workshop. We are happy to share the link to that false assessment again, so as to know which pathway to follow if you want to escalate following that pathway. If not, then we can look at the communication and closure box where you update the clinical system of whatever action you've taken. You inform the patient of what you've done. If there's any follow-up, you follow up with a phone call or visit if needed. If not, then you reply back to Telecare of any outcome you've taken, so as for Telecare to take a note of what has happened as well. And that is kind of where we intend to pull some evaluation from as well. That's the reason why we're asking for Telecare to also be informed of any outcome. And update confirmation received from Telecare, because Telecare is going to say they've received your response and they're going to update it on your side as well, and you close that call, that case. So that's the flow chart for the PCN. Any questions? Nothing has changed from the last time. Hi, Jenna.
I'm just wondering, I briefly saw that table of alerts. Again, with the heart rate, is that something that's going to send an alert through if someone's heart rate's either really low or really high? Will we be getting alerts about that?
Sorry, with your question, Jenna, I think Ophir and maybe the MiiCare team will be able to answer that. I think maybe they touched on that earlier, but I'll let them take that. Sorry, can I go on to Grace and see if Grace has got my question regarding the flow chart?
Yeah, so it was just about where we have to reply to Telecare with the outcome of obviously what we've done, and how we do that. So is there a time scale to the action? So if they've sent us through an alert on the email, we've received it, and say we need to contact the patient, do we have time scales for that we have to have that response time and then feedback to Telecare?
So we've asked that you respond to the alerts within 48 hours, 48 working hours, as in line with the patches timescales. But yes, you've got time to respond back. Essentially, the responsibility for making sure that information is fed backwards and forwards will lie with the PCN. So if it takes you 48 hours, you get hold of the patient, you've then got to see them in 3 days' time, and then you notify Telecare in a week. No one's going to be chasing you. So you've got time to do that. What we are asking is that if you don't get that, once you've sent that confirmation back to Telecare, if you don't get confirmation from them within a week that they've updated their systems, that you chase up.
Fine.
So we make sure we're capturing that.
Do we do that then based on the email then that we get?
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you.
No problem. I can just let Ophir come back in and answer that question about heart rate.
Yes, so the system picks up the heart rate from the wearable, which again, it's not a medical device. It gives indications about heart rate. Now, the system can be set up to generate alerts to telecare in case something like that comes up. But this is something that the project needs to define if they want to have that in place, Catherine. So maybe we should take that offline and see if these kind of alerts are something that we want to have being generated by the system within this project. At the moment, it's not designed to do so.
Yeah, so at the moment, we haven't got that in. If that's something we feel strongly about, perhaps we pick up a conversation at implementation group tomorrow around whether we feel we need that adding in or not. If I can ask PCN members to perhaps bring that back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Not seeing any. Okay, so I'm gonna move us on then. Thank you, Abs. So in terms of logging the alert, then once you get the alert, there are alert codes that have been set up. So on system 1, you use, I don't know if you can see this, it's very tiny on my screen, but the screenshot shows at the kind of where it says alerts on the left-hand side, there is an alert code box to tick. Sarah, I'll come back to that question about communications packs in a minute. So you would tick that and complete the details of the notifications and the action taken in system 1. Similarly, in EMIS, you've got the option to use the alert code, alert note, and complete the details in there. There is a more detailed video about this. So Anna Bainbridge did a demonstration of the templates at the last delivery group. The link within this pack does take you to a video of that delivery group meeting training session on the clinical system templates if you want more detail on the clinical system templates. There is also a full DQ guide that will go up. It's just being authorized by the DQ team at the moment to make sure that it's accurate and it matches our SOPs. That will also get loaded up onto the team's site before next week. So that will have even more detail about the clinical templates if you need them. So this is the email we keep talking about. So that's the centralized telecare email that you need to email to confirm what action you've taken. If no action's required, email them, tell them that, to say the alert doesn't require any further action than what you've already done, and they can log that on their system. As we've mentioned, they'll respond to confirm receipt of your email and log what action, if any, has been taken, and we're asking you to chase within 1 week if you haven't heard back from them. We've covered the My Health report. Ophir did that very neatly in his first section, I believe. So I'm just going to skip through this one and go on to where you can find some of this documentation. So the recording of this session, the recording of the session on templates, an SOP, which is literally a step-by-step, you do this, telecare does this, you do that, are all available on the Leeds MiiCare documentation site. So it's Leeds ICB MiiCare team site. You should all have been given access. That said, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's been lots of forward on. So where we can, we've caught those. We will be sending out a request to just verify everybody has got access to that team site before we go live next week. If you've not got access to that team site after that verification, if you could email Drew Cookland, his email's address on here, and copy me in. I'm actually, bad timing on this is all slipped. I'm actually having to use up my annual leave next week, but Drew is around and we'll make sure that that gets actioned and you get access. You should all have received details of how to log into the MiiCare system. Ophir, have we had any delays on that? As far as I know, they've all gone through.
Yes, as far as I know. Yeah.
Okay. So if after you've got your login details, you need your login details first, but if you haven't had your login details, again, please contact Drew and myself and we'll coordinate. If you can't get on once you've got your login details, then that's the email address for the MiiCare support service and their telephone number. And there are also additional videos on how the system works, but bear in mind they are generic, so they will include details of potentially additional bits of kit that we don't have on the MiiCare website, and that's the link to those. We are also running MiiCare implementation group meetings on a Thursday, which you should all have been invited to. Again, if you haven't and you feel you want to come along and here, it's an opportunity to raise questions, get feedback, as we go through this implementation phase, then please do drop myself and Drew an email. So Afir mentioned earlier that we have some administrators. These are they. So for each of your PCNs, you can see who your administrators are. These people have the enhanced access to MiiCare and can add additional people onto MiiCare once we've got up and running. There is a 2-page guide which Afir has kindly put together, which again will be on that team's site. So we'll make sure everything that you need is loaded on that team's site. That includes copies of the communications materials for patients in a large format, so bigger font, and we've also made the ones that are on there machine readable. In terms of the communications packs, they were sent out to your PCNs a number of weeks ago. So one of the pleas really is, please make sure you found out where you filed those. That includes comms for carers, patients, staff members. It includes a copy of the consent forms. So you should have everything in that pack that you need to go live. And that's everything we wanted to run through today. Are there any more questions? Anna?
Just picking up an earlier question from Tracy asking how often would we be monitoring the data. So obviously when an alert comes through to Telecare, they will send you an email and say this has happened and you'll have a look. But we have thought about those patients who may never trigger alert. You know, their activities of daily living stay the same for a number of months and no alerts are triggered. So we would like you to be reviewing the My Health report that was shown. I can't remember, Catherine, off the top of my head.
So
how often
we
say?
didn't say. What we said was the PCNs already do proactive care and you already have a step up, step down process. What we're asking is, as part of that existing proactive care process, you use the additional information on the dashboard and the My Health reports. So if your current process is you review quarterly, you review quarterly. If your current process is you review monthly, you review monthly, but we're just asking you to use that additional information to check and see whether there is any changes for those patients that might be more gradual and might not have triggered an alert, but you might think need a little bit of attention. Thank you, Hannah. Any more questions? Claire?
Yeah, thank you. Does this mean from now on we can start talking to the patients?
So I'm really sorry you broke up then. Can you say that again?
So after this session, do we now start engaging the patients?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So officially we go live on Monday. Obviously that is going to be a soft launch because you're not suddenly going to talk to 60 patients on Monday and send them all through to Telecare, and I think they might sink if you did that. But yeah, we're asking that following this training session that you start to engage with your patients and you start to send those referrals through from Monday. Any more questions? If not, I'm going to let you all escape and have a little bit of time back. Like I said, we do have implementation group tomorrow. So if you go away from the session and you think, oh, hang on, I've got a question, bring it to implementation group tomorrow. Or if you're watching this back and you haven't attended this training session, but you're doing it online afterwards, again, bring it to a future implementation session. That's what they're there for, really, to work through some of these questions as they come up. Not seeing any hands up. Not seeing anything in the chat. So I'm going to let you all go. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all for your attention and we'll see you shortly.
Bye.